The Consulting Success podcast is powered by the Clarity Coaching Program. If you'd like to work directly with the Consulting Success team and receive personal coaching and support to optimize and grow your consulting business, marketing, and revenue, visit consultingsuccess.com to find out more and apply.
Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of elite consultants, where you'll learn the strategies, tactics, and mindset to grow a highly profitable and successful consulting business.
Hey everyone, it's Michael Zapersky here, and today I'm with Rob Malec. Rob, welcome.
Welcome, Michael. Thank you very much for having me. So great to be here.
Yeah, excited for this. Rob, we've known each other for many years now, or at least several years. I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a while. And I want to just give a quick little intro to you here so people know kind of who you are and what you've been up to. And then we're going to dive more into your story because there's a lot to cover. So you're an author, you're a speaker, you're a revenue generation consultant. Your company is called BusinessWorks Consulting. You've helped over 100 clients in 22 different industries improve their revenue by 30% or more, in some cases significantly more. You're also the author of Sell More by Selling Less, a book that really talks about selling using the conversational sales method, which we'll definitely get into because that is essential for anyone in consulting or anyone that's providing advisory services to understand how to approach sales. But let's get started, Rob, by going back in time a little bit. Today, right, you're working with many companies, helping them and their sales teams to grow revenue. How did you get into that? Like, take us back maybe to your first role in sales or even before that. Like, what were you doing before you entered that world of sales and consulting?
I entered sales, my first job out of university, real job. I drove a truck to pay the bills and pay back my school debts, was with Wrigley's Chewing Gum. Very humble start. But boy, did they have their ducks in a row in terms of sales process and method. Moved on to Purolator Courier. I spent 9 years at Purolator, sales rep, national accounts, regional sales manager here in British Columbia. And I moved to the United States and helped them build their business from scratch. So myself, another guy, small office, 2 phone books, and no customers is how we started. And we had some good luck and some good success. And we got to about $18 million in annual revenue when I was there. They're still around. They're about $100 million now. And that was the first seeds of, I think I have some ideas about sales and selling. And I really liked leadership and being a leader. My last job prior to going independent, I had a team of 45 people reporting to me and ultimately was ready. And I hung my shingle and started doing this.
Yeah, so you just cover like a lot of ground. I want to back up and then dissect and dig into a little bit more. At what point did you realize that you were interested in sales? Because so you went to university. You then said that you were driving a truck. What kind of truck were you driving? Was it like a big rig or something?
No, it was like a 5-ton truck delivering milk to stores in Ontario.
Okay.
And I just graduated, had student debt. And there I am with my diploma in one hand and the keys to this big, huge truck in the other, and realized that, that kind of work had, run its course. And the first job, I thought, well, I'll try sales and see if I happen to like it. And I did that. And I found it really, I think there's 2 things. One thing, super rewarding to sell something. And then that kind of supports the entire company because now the promise you've made to a customer is fulfilled by all these other people. And so with, Purolator Courier, for instance, had 10,000 employees. When I sell on an account, I know that all those drivers and all those trucks, I'm contributing in a very small way, but to helping those people, as far as jobs and stuff like that. And the other piece inherently inside myself, I really like to help people. Sales is a great way to help people because if you have a solution to their problems, you can make their life easier, save them some time, save them some money, that kind of stuff. And also the other side of it I really enjoy is very collaborative. So I have, a lot of team and sports and athletics in my background. And it felt very natural to be part of a team because sales is very much a team sport. You need to have people helping you behind the scenes. Other people are with you as you're doing that job. Post-sale, as I mentioned, all those folks support you. So it's very natural for me.
All right. So from delivering milk to selling more chewing gum, what was going on in your mind? Was it just that the chewing gum job and then into working for Purolator was that progression of going from delivering milk and then selling chewing gum into then working at Purelator for deliveries and all that kind of stuff? Was it just those positions were offering better compensation, better benefits? Was that the pull, or was your mind already thinking, oh yeah, I don't want to keep doing this driving of trucks type of job. I want to actually start selling. Like what was going on in your mind, taking you from delivering milk to getting into sales?
So yes, it was that I had enough of the driving and delivery things. And then Wrigley's, frankly, the first company that would give me a job straight out of university with zero experience. And I realized, yeah, I kind of like the sales thing. And then I thought, I want to go up to the next level. I want to be in the boardroom helping companies in a bigger picture way. And that was as much as I needed to say, okay, start hunting around. And Purelator happened to be hiring at the time. And that's how I ended up there. I just thought I could help on a bigger scale than I was doing.
Did you ever feel uncomfortable with sales? A lot of people hesitate around it. They feel like it's a negative thing or a bad thing, and they're just not comfortable engaging in sales conversations or trying to quote unquote sell someone. Did you ever feel that way? And I'm just wondering if you did, how did you deal with it?
I never felt that way because I sincerely felt I was helping people. And for instance, if you walk into a warehouse and you see mountains of boxes that need to be shipped, and you realize we can help that business to get products to their end consumers faster, allow people to track it in a way they couldn't. Bear in mind, this is 20 years ago. And so it was the notion of helping that really, for me on the sales side, I wasn't convincing anyone of anything. I was there to help. And I think of sales people or people in a sales role in the consulting world, we have to sell work and do work. There's two parts to our job. And so I think it's incumbent upon us to become comfortable and good at the selling part. And if you take out the word selling and put in helping, I think it changes the dynamic. And this is not a matter of semantics. You're truly helping people. You have something people need. At the time, for me, it was transportation services. Now it's expertise in a certain realm. And I think that's the path to diffusing any discomfort with sales. You're not selling, you're not convincing, you're not cajoling, you're not persuading, nothing. You're just helping.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really powerful. So you kind of, went up the ranks in Purelator. You went to the US, kind of opened or worked in one of the first offices for them down there, grew revenue 18 million, grew the team. Right now it's 100 million or whatever plus business down in just that one location or one area. What happened inside? What was going on for you that made you decide to venture out and start your own consulting business?
Control over my destiny. So there was, in between Purelator, when I came back from the States and was in Canada, I worked for a small startup company. And I was one of two people in the Vancouver office. And you're working away and working away and working away. And the company ultimately ran out of money because of 9/11 and the like. But prior to that, people would they were trimming staff, and reached a certain age, and I'm looking, going, you thought when you're younger and you look up the pyramid of the org chart, when you get up higher, it's more stable, and it's absolutely not. It's the opposite. And I didn't like not having control over my destiny. That was the biggest thing. I also didn't like, in corporate life, there's decisions that are made with some greater good in mind. It's not always good in my estimation, but you're forced to support those. That's part of your job. You accept that as part of your job. And I realized I didn't like to do that. And I had a situation, it had to do with compensation for another salesperson, where I didn't think the company acted, to my mind, fairly to this person, but I had to support it because that was part of my role. And that was probably the moment where I said, I need to be on my own. It's this mix of control over my destiny and supporting messages that I believe in and helping people in a way that I think is a great way to do it, and all those things.
Gotcha. So you made the decision. How long were you thinking about it before you actually made the leap and went out there and left the job and went kind of full into building your consulting business?
Oh, good question. That was 3 years. 3 years of thinking about it. What could I do? What should I do? What will I do? And you stand at the edge of the pool with your, floaties on, and you look at the water. And it took about that long to jump in. As it happened, I mentioned 9/11, the company ran out of money. At that point, I was faced with go out and get a job or jump in. So I jumped in.
Yeah. When you look back the early stages of your business, do you remember the first time where you really felt like, wow, okay, I've made it, like something is working now, and I don't need to go back and get a full-time job? Like you had more confidence and kind of comfort that the business would thrive long term. Was there a specific kind of point in time, or when you landed a certain client or revenue reached a certain level, anything that kind of takes you back to that?
Yeah, there was 2 or 3 phases of my consulting career. So I came out and realized I want to help companies to improve sales. I didn't have any intellectual property at that point. I only had my track record, my experience. And when you have that, well, I'll speak for myself, I could give tips and tactics and advice, but I couldn't give the recipe to anyone. So I landed 2 or 3 different projects, about a year long, with some big box training companies, flying around North America, teaching on their behalf. And in doing that's when I did my first one, and I went down to Sterling, West Virginia, and I'm there all by myself. It's the first time I'm ever getting a paycheck that wasn't from a big company. And that was a big aha moment. So, okay, now I can do this. And in working with those companies and training, I trained some big companies, Boeing and this kind of thing. I learned a lot about training development and design, which really informed for me how I could take my experience and package it up, position it, make it into a system. And so that was the first big aha moment for me, is yeah, I can do this at that point. And that was about 6 months in when I started that.
Got you. So it was really about kind of developing your own intellectual property, getting validation that you were now receiving payment that, wasn't tied to a full-time job. It was actually other clients. When you look back at that time, Rob, because I know a lot of consultants will get into kind of a structure where they either work through other companies. So as you said, as you did early on, so you're working for another training company, delivering their trainings to their clients, or someone will take a contract from one main, quote unquote client, but really it's almost more like a job. It's almost more like a contractor, not necessarily a consultant. When you look back at that experience, is there any advice that you would have for somebody who might be working in that kind of structure right now, where they are not necessarily working with their own clients, they're working through another company to service those clients? Any thoughts on that experience and what you might suggest to others who are in that phase right now?
It takes some thinking to understand what exactly is my offering and to whom would I offer it. And speaking from my own experience, working through other parties like the big box training companies and the like, when I sort of distill it all down, they owned the client relationship. And I was still working for someone else. And in getting as far as building my business, I started from my network and people who I knew. So I consulted back to Purelator and did some work for them. Once I started owning that client relationship and the responsibility for developing a program or methodology or a system was all on me, that's when I felt that was my next turning point. Was I'm a consultant now. I was a trainer before, and before that I was an employee. But when I had my first client and I totally owned the relationship, now I'm a consultant. And then when I carried 3 and 4 different clients without a middle person, that's when I said, I have a practice now.
When you look at the kind of the journey or the lifespan of your business to this point, you mentioned stage 1, you're delivering for these big box training companies. What would you say the other kind of timelines or milestones were in your business, again, to this point today? What other big shifts or big changes did you make? If you could kind of like walk us through what that looked like. Did you start, for example, offering different services? Did you approach pricing in a different way? Did you narrow in on a specific type of ideal client? Like what just kind of give us like the chapters of your business, like as we kind of go through, what would those chapters be after you started delivering on the big box training companies?
The first chapter segues nicely. It was my book. Writing my book was the turning point in my consulting practice.
Why is that? Why would you say it's the turning point for you?
It separated me from 99.9% of the competition out there. You have the big box training companies who would deliver large scale training And then I identify my ideal client as someone who's not multinational or a $500 million company. I was helping small to medium enterprise. And when they would say, prior to writing my book, well, Rob, what's your approach? And tell us about it. I could tell them verbally, and I could show them maybe some PowerPoints and the like. And that was one thing. But after I wrote my book and they said, Rob, what's your methodology? How do you do it? And I pull up my book. It's this 2.5-pound business card, and I slide it across the table. They look at the book and they look at me. And honestly, half the time they go, okay, we get it. You've checked that box. Not many consultants say, totally, I got a book in me. Not many write one because it's not difficult, but it's not simple and easy, and it takes time. But that's why it separates the author from the non-author. So that was a big turning point. Was that the second big turning point was around value-based fees and breaking the time for money continuum, or connection rather. That was a big one because your income is significantly limited. But more to the point, so a very brief story. I had a client that invested very small 4 figures with me, and they made a pretty large 5-figure profit, straight profit, based solely on my work. And the reason I can say that is I know what the results were for the 12 months prior to working with me, and then we saw the results at the end. And the person who brought me on said, this is the result of your work. And I looked and I thought, it doesn't seem right. I'm not participating. I thought it was good value, and it turned out to be good value, but I was a non-participant in the enjoyment of that value. And so it didn't seem fair to me. And once I understood how to create and support a value-based fee, all of a sudden that made a big difference in my income, which makes a big difference in your workload, because if you can carry fewer clients and make more money as a consultant, your work-life balance is positively impacted.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that to me is very clear, Rob, about you is you're constantly soaking up new information. You're a student of life, a student of business. You're reading new books. You have always perspectives on different approaches, whether it's learning development and trainings or courses or many different areas. I mean, you're very well read, and you apply a lot of this into your business, which is I think one of the reasons that you're able to create the kind of results that you do for your clients. But you and I first met when you reached out to us at Consulting Success to get some kind of support around growing your consulting business. What was going on kind of in your mind? Because here you are, a lot, you're inputting a lot already into your mind, into your business. At that time, what was kind of the main area that you were looking to improve upon in your business?
Lead flow, 100%. It was lead flow. And the other was, I felt, despite having value-based fees and been using them for many years, I'd hit a ceiling on the revenue I could generate. And as an independent consultant, when you're in your base office slugging it out all by yourself, lots of times you're unsure of yourself, and you come up with an idea where you go, that sounds okay, but would this even fly in the real world? And after 16 years of doing it all myself, I said, I think I should get some help, which is ironic because as a consultant, I provide help to people. And that's why I reached out to Consulting Success. And it absolutely helped me to break through the glass ceiling in all respects. And I only have one regret, and it's that I didn't take that advice sooner. I didn't seek that advice sooner. I really wish I had of. And if I was to do my consulting business all over again, that would probably be the only thing I would change, is I would get advice sooner, invest in myself sooner, because the ROI on the investment I've made in time, energy, whatever, to be involved with Consulting Success has multiplied so far beyond what I expected. I've stopped counting it. And it's really affected me in a profound way in terms of how I approach being a student, because I realized, this is another big turning point. We were talking about this 5 or 6 years ago, and doing a lot of reading around Buddhism, of all things, the notion of being a student, and to be a better teacher if you're a student, that helps you to understand the learner's perspective, and you get better at teaching. And so that's really informed a lot of what I do. And so if I learn how to play guitar course, learn how to draw, anything I'm doing, even something I'm experienced in, skiing or whatever, I take some lessons in that. it returns me to that student role, and it informs when I'm sitting across from a client. I'll look and I'll think, oh yeah, well, the sidebar, I'm taking a guitar course and they've taken all the theory out, but teach you what you need to know to play. And now when I teach people, I take away, I feel I'm simpler to understand now, all because of being a student on purpose.
And I think one of the areas that has, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's had a very positive impact on your business is an adjustment that you made to your fees, right? So you mentioned earlier on, you kind of went from the standard hourly kind of project rate into more value-based fees. But a little bit more recently, I mean, it's still now been maybe a couple of years or so, you've also started to look at ways where you can be more involved in the upside performance of the work that you're doing. So meaning that if you're able to help clients to achieve greater levels of revenue, then you have a percentage, or you have more participation in that. Can you talk a little bit about how you started to bring that into your business and the kind of impact that it's had? Because I think it's an area that a lot of people are interested in doing, but don't necessarily know how to approach it. So I'd love if you could just share your experience of shifting to that kind of a model.
While we work with a lot of seasoned and experienced consultants here at Consulting Success, I'm often contacted by new early-stage consultants. Invariably, the question I'm asked is, what are the steps I should take to become a successful consultant and grow my consulting business to my first 6 figures per year? Well, I'm excited to announce that we've opened the doors for our Momentum program. This is our most popular program for early-stage consultants, and it has helped almost 1,000 consultants to start, run, and grow successful consulting businesses. It gives you the step-by-step plan to help you with your messaging, your fees, and pricing strategies, how to win more proposals, how to go to market more effectively, developing a marketing system to generate leads consistently, and so much more. And right now, until September the 19th, you can sign up for Momentum and get 50% off the regular price by going to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO. Only 100 spots are available to join Momentum and get 50% off. This deal is only available until September the 19th or until all 100 spots are gone. We won't be opening up new spots in this program for several months, so don't wait. Go to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO.
So you're absolutely right, and that was about 2.5 or 3 years ago. So the model is called pay for performance. And in brief, here's the way it's structured. So consultants will often have a flat monthly fee that they charge for their services. That fee can be based on value that is realized by the client. I happen to be in the sales realm in a position where everything is very, very measured. And so when revenue goes up or down, gross margin goes up and down, all of that is very closely measured. And so what I said to my clients, again, towards the notion of win-win or a shared risk scenario, is I'll say the investment for you up front is 2, maybe 3 months of a flat fee. That's your investment in building your infrastructure. And that infrastructure will bear fruit many, many years after I'm gone. What we'll do is in month 3, the flat fee will drop significantly, typically by about 1/3 at least. And on top of that, we'll add a pay for performance piece. So in sales, usually it's called a commission. And I work with the client to come up with what the commission number is, the percentage, and as well on what it's applying to, gross revenue, gross margin, a combination thereof. We set an annual target income for me, so it's all very on the up and up. And the client goes, yeah, okay, Rob, well, the target income is X. Half of that is flat fee, and the other half is pay for performance. So the shared risk is this. My risk is to charge a lower fee. Their risk is to pay that fee. But the shared reward is when sales go up, they win and I win as well. And again, in the sales world, as a vice president of sales, it's pretty normal. So conceptually, people get it. And the impact on my business, Michael, for those clients, because not every client it applies or it takes a few months, fees would be up by a full third, sometimes double. And if I have a client right now where sales results are really, 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 they're awesome. But we're 3 years in, so it's taken us a while to get there. And it's really, really worked out to everyone's favor. The company's super happy. I'm super happy. Yeah, it's been great.
I mean, I think it's a really powerful concept, and it kind of goes back to a lot of what you believe in. Like I think it's one of your principles, right? Even based around your book of less is more, right? Like how to sell more by selling less. And here you are with the idea and kind of the structure of, okay, fewer clients, but more value created with each client. And so this compensation kind of model really does speak to that. I want to take us for a moment to your marketing. You mentioned when you were at Purelator, you went into the US. It was you and one other person. You essentially had a couple of books. I don't know if they were phone books, but books to call upon people, right? So it sounds like hardcore cold calling, which is what freaks most people out. But that's what you were doing. And you built up, right, very solid, $18 million a year or so type of business. Walk us through what you're doing right now, or what you've seen in terms of the evolution of your marketing, and what you've been finding most helpful to actually bring people into your world. I know you talk about the book. I know you've done some things with accessing different people who also have access to your ideal clients, and in this case, like CFOs or so forth. But just walk us through, like, what would you describe right now, or in terms of your most effective approach to marketing, or just what's working best over the last few years for you there, Rob? That'd be really helpful if you kind of just take us through that.
Yeah, I would say the first thing I learned, or one of the first things from Consulting Success, was the notion of marketing mix. So it is a mix. It isn't just one big thing. And I know consultants will go on the internet and start reading about the marketing they should be doing. And all of a sudden you feel bad. You go, oh, these 15 things I should be doing. The things that I focus on in specifics, the first one is leveraging my network. So if my business was an upside down pyramid, my first client is Gord. This guy, a friend of mine, Gord. He said, hey, 18 years ago, Rob, would you be my sales coach? And working with Gord led to working with the company Gord worked for, which led to someone else in the industry, which led to more connections. So I make a very proactive effort to reach out to everyone I know in my network, literally, on a really timed basis. So in my CRM, Michael Zapersky's name's in there, and every X number of months, it'll pop up and say, time to contact Michael. So all the people in my contact base that I know on a first name basis are in there. So that's one thing that I do. The other, if that's one-to-one marketing, my one-to-many marketing is to find centers of influence. For instance, the Technology Association here in Vancouver. I can go in, speak with the people who are running that association because they want to bring value to their constituents and their members. And I did free talks and the like, which turned into paid work, which turned into more connections, turned into future projects. And so I did that with a couple of different associations. That's a big part of what I do. I have my book, and for those CEOs I really want to meet with personally, I know they get bombarded with things, emails and the like. I've sent them a physical copy of my book, signed to their name inside the cover, and that's generated lots of conversations. And I also do reach out on LinkedIn on a regular basis, asking for connections of people where it's relevant and logical, people active in the tech space, et cetera, where I think to myself, I could really bring value to this person. And I have a set nurture campaign. Full disclosure, my virtual assistant helps me to run this. That's how I'm able to manage my time and be productive. And so we have a cadence, tempo, a sequence of messages. I have content I think they will find of value, things either I've written or I've curated, and then a call to action of, hey, would you like to speak? That's generating conversations. And I'm finding now that people are comfortable in the Zoom culture, more people are saying yes to those meetings. So that's the mix of what I do. I would say that the key to it is consistency. And I did it myself for about a year before I got my virtual assistant. And probably that's the other change I make, because I get an assistant way sooner. She is awesome. If she saves me, I don't know, 4 to 6 hours a week, but that's pure productive hours, really focused hours. So you may as well double that, the impact on my business.
Yeah. Now, did you hesitate? Like when you look back, the before and after, so clearly the value of having a virtual assistant is huge for you, right? You just hit on that. I think a lot of people maybe wait longer than they should have, or they just hesitate. They think I need to get my revenue up to that next level, or when I land that next project, or I can it's faster for me to do it myself. Did you have any of that in terms of kind of maybe waiting or not getting an assistant earlier, like than you think you should have now when you have the benefit of hindsight, or did it come at the right time for you?
100% hesitant. I was in the trap of only I can do this. Oh, I'm the best one to do it, both of which were false. And on the money side, I don't know what I thought it was going to cost, but it certainly doesn't cost a whole ton of money. If you were an independent consultant, you said, I'm going to put $200 a month to getting a virtual assistant. What will happen, what's happened to me is that $200 investment turns into a new client, which allows me to spend double that now on my assistant. And so I was afflicted. I had the curse of I'm the only one. And the third thing was it takes longer to tell someone else to do it. And that's true for the first time you do it. But the second time, the third time, the 10th time they do it for you, your involvement significantly decreases. I use screen capture videos to explain things or nuance things, and very time efficient. And my assistant can watch the video 10 times if she wasn't clear on what I was saying, and she's instantly more productive. And here's the thing: she feels awesome too. I tell her all the time how great she is, and she feels awesome because she's be able to do more for me. It's been really good both ways.
Another thing that I really, when I think about you, Rob, and everything that you've done, because now I've known you for several years, is that you have a very clear set of priorities around not only how you engage with clients in business, but also how you engage in life. You spend a lot of time skiing in the winters, right? You spend a lot of time up in the mountains, even when it's not winter time. Like, you have a good balance between how you approach spending time in your business and how you spend time outside of your business, and also when those two things collide, or not collide, but how they interact and kind of play together. How do you think about that? I mean, a lot of people, their minds are fully consumed with the business, and they put off the idea of taking care of themselves or putting themselves in an environment that might be more conducive to creativity. Like, they don't have, I'm not going to say a balance, because it's not necessarily always a balance, but they don't have their priorities straight. And to me, it feels, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it feels like you do have a lot of clarity on your priorities. And for you, being up in the mountains, being in nature, skiing is certainly a top priority. Walk us through that. How did that develop? I know your kids are older now, so things have shifted, but for people who maybe don't have the structure they'd like in their lives, the kind of the balance between work, but also being able to do the things they want, or having more hobbies, or kind of creating that environment that really supports their lifestyle. Is there anything that you've realized over the years in terms of how you think about business and how you think about your lifestyle, and how the two kind of work together?
Yeah, I would say, Michael, full disclosure, early in my career, I'm a type A person, and I was the 12 hours a day guy, take Saturday off and then back at it for 6 hours on Sunday. And the achieving the balance, there are some realizations that came to me. One, the first thing, both my parents passed away at a very young age. And when I was quite young, my father died when I was 18 of heart issues. And so I had that in my background, where I go, oh, okay, well, when you're young and you're going to live forever and you're invincible, you don't think about that. And then later on, you start going, wow, that's in my family. So that was one thing that was like an awakening, if you will, or a realization. The other is my wife is a physician and regularly comes home with all the stories that no one wants to hear about the 45-year-old dad who drops dead or has some sort of accident or the like. And you realize, wow, there's more to life than work. But even still, when you're type A, you're go, 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 go. And I would say that it's interesting you brought this up. The big realization, I'd say the big turning point for me is I used to measure my annual income. It was a goal for me. And the year that I stopped measuring my annual income was the time when I took my foot off the gas pedal of work, 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 and realized that I need to add some life in there. And so goal setting is great. And I read about goal setting, and I was doing all the goal setting things and writing them all down and the like and all that sort of stuff. And I realized that one particular goal was unhealthy for me. And it didn't happen in year one of my consulting practices, probably 12 years in. And so it's the notion of this, that the things that we hang on to and we aren't willing to let go can become a boat anchor or can become a negative. And I was hanging on because of my type A personality, this notion of I had to achieve this certain thing. And ironically, when I let go of the need to achieve that, my life balance and work became better, and I overachieved it on a regular basis. So it was that mindset. And then once I realized, okay, I want to do this thing, then you go, well, how am I going to do it? And I realized there's certain passions I had. You're right about the outdoors and the like, and about music, and about my family and my kids. And yes, they are older now; they're university. I look back and I feel really good that I didn't miss anything. I was present. I built my consulting business to work so that I didn't have to travel out of Vancouver, despite having clients literally around the world. And that choice in and of itself kept me present physically off of an airplane, able to be more productive. So again, it's this mix of things, but the first was the realization that I was type A guy, probably despite denying it. And then the next thing of, okay, well, let go of that thing that I think is supposed to help me was actually hurting me. And the last part was, okay, now how am I going to make it happen? And so it's, Michael, honestly, it doesn't just happen. I need to say no. You know, if I have a time booked for a family thing or the like, and a client says, oh, Rob, let's do this thing at that time slot, I say, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I have another commitment. And it is another commitment to me and to my family and to my life. And it usually works out.
Yeah. I think that's a really powerful kind of concept or just story for people to hear, because very often it's easy to take something that is a priority that you've maybe decided, set out as a priority, and then the moment that business or a client asks you to change it, essentially they don't know that you have something then, but they're trying to fill your calendar with something that they need help with. A lot of people will shift the priority that they had, right? They'll kind of sacrifice it for the business because the belief is, well, the business is on top. But what you've done is you've put your lifestyle on top, right? Created the priorities around it, created the structure, and then made sure that your business supports your lifestyle and not the other way around. When you look back though, Rob, because I know you said, you've been in business 16 plus years, this happened maybe around year 12. So it's not like just you realize this in day one, but looking back now, knowing what you know, is there something that you wish you would have done differently, or something that you learn from that you think other people might also benefit from in terms of how you think about things or decisions that you made or didn't make?
Yes. So you've sort of cracked open. I got a ton of things flying around my head right now. The first thing is the power of no as a consultant. I'm in the business of helping people. The joy for me in consulting is to help people. And I would say that in the past, I was guilty of just saying yes to every request. And it would end up manifesting itself, as you just mentioned, family events put off to the side or the like. And it's been in the last year and a half where I've said no to more opportunities than I said yes to. And I read a book a long time ago. They talked about a velvet rope and having, allowing clients in. And, at a time when I started, I had no clients. I was desperate, come on in. And what I found is I said yes to opportunities that in hindsight, maybe they didn't go perfectly for reasons I saw up front, but I decided to bring them in anyway, candidly, because I wanted to earn the money, because I had this income goal in mind. And what I've learned is that when I say no to an opportunity that doesn't look optimal, it just opens up time to find either another opportunity that will fill that space that is in fact optimal, or I can focus more on my current clients and deliver more value to them, which if I do that, that's enriching in and of itself. And sometimes it turns into more project work with an existing client. So the power of saying no, I would have exercised that a lot sooner. The other decision of waiting to get help, waiting till year 16, I wish I had done it in year 1.6, just move the decimal over to 1. And the other is building a sense of community. So with consulting success, that's the one thing, honestly, Michael, it was something I didn't realize that I was really thirsty for. Because when you work by yourself all the time, I mean, your spouse is very interested in your business, of course, but having like-minded colleagues who face what you face and the like is really, really, really supportive. I can remember many times for the Wednesday call, the consulting success, hopping out of my office and driving in my car and going somewhere so I could actually get out of the space and just listen to it, and contributing some answers in that as well was fulfilling. So that sense of community, because we as independent consultants can end up in our office all by ourselves for way longer than we probably enjoy.
So Rob, before we wrap up, I mean, you are a sales expert. This is where you spend your time in sales, in revenue generation. I want to direct people to learn more about you and your work and your book. But before we do that, I want you to think about two maybe common mistakes or big areas of opportunity that you think consultants and those in professional services have when it comes to sales, maybe specifically. What are two areas where you see people often making mistakes that, and maybe you yourself made them at some point in your journey, and what's the best practice? What should people do to overcome those mistakes and see greater success?
The first is to specialize. And someone just used this analogy today because we're talking about specialization in business. And this person said, I get nervous when I go to a restaurant and they serve pizza and wontons and goulash and sushi. How can you be good at all those things? And I laughed because it's totally true. And as a consultant, if you don't specialize, then it's hard to get great at one thing. It's hard to attract your ideal customer because your message is as diffuse as your offer. And what I find is that the path is, for new consultants, distill down, and then when you think you're done, distill down further and really get down to your core offering. And the second is to embrace the money conversation with buyers. Many consultants are either uncomfortable to do it or they're really trapped in the time for money connection. And that's a mistake. I would say that's a mistake because it's not a win-win scenario. The consultant does not get to share in the success to the degree that they should because they are helping to bring that success. It's less enriching, and for your business is less healthy because you're in business to generate revenue to fund your lifestyle or whatever it is you like to fund. And so it helps your business health as well, all around holistically. It's a great thing.
So when you say embrace kind of the money conversation, is that really, are you getting at the kind of the importance of understanding the value that you bring as a consultant, not just charging on an hourly basis, but really looking at, even if you're not involved in sales or revenue generation directly, looking at what is the impact and the outcome that you're going to help to create in that organization or with that person, and then making sure that your fees and the way that you're capturing compensation reflects or is connected to that outcome and to the value, not just, oh yeah, it's $100 an hour or whatever it might be. Is that what you mean by embrace, or is there something else within that you think is important that people consider?
There's two parts. The embracing it means lean into it, and even if you're uncomfortable, what I find is a large cross section of people, when it comes down to here's what I'd like to charge for my services, have a very close discomfort with that conversation. And it's a mindset that you have, which is not to say, oh, well, feel more confident and act confident, therefore you will be confident. Rather, the second part of that embrace the money conversation, one, don't trade time for money, but the other is over the course of your conversations with the buyer, uncover the specific nature of the value you bring and quantify it wherever possible, either in hours and minutes, dollars and cents, or if it's not like that, like it's improved morale, and there's stats around everything now, employee engagement and the like. Maybe it's improving whatever that indicator is on a scale. Right now it's operating at 2 and you're trying to get it to 6 or 7. Without the quantification, it's hard to set value-based fees. And without the quantification, you can't go in with confidence to support the fee you're asking for because it's founded on an opinion. But when it's quantified, we increase retention by X, we decrease cost on this area by Y, whatever the case may be. Then you can say, well, that's the net value over a year, 2 years. Here's my fee, and relative to the value is going to be derived, the fee is very reasonable.
Got you. So you also talked about the first point there was specialization, how important that is. Is there any line that you can draw in your own experience or a connection between the amount of specialization that somebody has and how that actually impacts the sales process or the sales conversation? Is there a connection in any way between those two things, or are you just feeling that specialization is important by itself in terms of generating leads and interest? Or have you actually seen that if somebody has greater specialization, when you get to and you enter the sales conversation, when you're actually talking to a buyer, decision maker, that specialization has an impact on the result of that conversation or how well things can go?
If you are more specialized, I'd say the fundamental impact it has on that conversation is your buyer and all the people related to your buyer are very, very clear on what you're doing and what you're not doing. I find people do well with black or white, but not with gray. And when you're in that gray category, your buyer's going, well, what are you doing? And what's your expertise? And what's the value you're going to bring? And when that becomes gray, your fees become gray and you can't support them. I'm here to do X. And by the way, I'm not doing Y and Z or Z. And I'm not doing those other things. I'm doing this one thing. It also helps in scope creep later on. Well, Mike, look, you're good at this, but you're also good at this other stuff too. Can we just throw that in? Well, hold on, that's not within the scope. And so specialization helps over the course of the project. And back to the power of saying no. If people ask you to do something, you can consider it and say either strategically, yes, I should do this, it'll help the project. And I present it as such that I'm letting this one in. Or you can say, no, that's out of scope. But because you were clear, specialized, and defined with your scope, you have some agreed to guardrails around your engagement.
I think that's really great advice, Rob. Well, let's end off here by making sure that people can learn more about you and your work and your book. So what's the best place, kind of the one web page URL, where should you guide people? Where should people go to learn more?
It is my name, www.robmalec.com. Everything you need is right there.
There we go. So we'll have that all linked up in the show notes. Rob, thanks again so much for coming on today.
It was a pleasure, Michael. Great to chat.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. For more episodes and to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, head on over to iTunes. And if you'd like to develop consistent lead flow and a highly profitable consulting business, learn more about our coaching programs at consultingsuccess.com.